All right, welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Clyde Sukeforth chapter of SABR. I am Bruce McClure, the chapter chair, and we always hold our meetings in conjunction with the Gardner-Waterman chapter SABR of Vermont, Dr. Clayton Treder, chair. Now, before we get started, I want to go to Jeff Cohen, who's going to give us a little more information about his podcast. Jeff, what's going on there?
Thanks, Bruce. Yes, this week on Baseball and BBQ on all your podcast apps, we have one of the biggest Dodger fans you'll ever know. He sang the national anthem at 4 Dodger playoff games, and each one went into extra innings, twice 18 innings. He interrupted his Canadian tour to talk with Lennon and myself, and it's Brad Paisley is going to join us on Baseball and BBQ this week, starting on Saturday. It's available on all your podcast apps.
Hold up. Brad Paisley.
Yes. The Brad Paisley.
The Brad Paisley.
Yes.
I can no longer be in the same room with you. You are just far too big for me. What?
Oh,
really?
Stop. Yeah, Brad Paisley. I couldn't believe it myself.
This has been good for you.
There's a good trivia question. You know, I just said he sang at 4 playoff games with Dodgers, and each one went to extra innings. Only one Dodger played in all 4 of them. And if anybody asks you, it's Kiki Hernandez.
Okay, everybody write that down so that they can win a bar bet.
That's right.
I can't get over that. That's good. Good for you. Good job.
You.
That's great, Jeff. Good for you. You know what? I don't know how I can follow that up. We're all set. Have a good night. No. All right, let's get on to our feature presentation. In the 45 years since Charlie Finley sold the club, the erstwhile Oakland A's have won a World Series and lost 2 others. They've reached the postseason 12 other times. While displaying some on-field success, however, their ownership has devolved from the exemplary Haas family to John Fisher. Their stewardship of their stadium became so awful that they eventually decamped from Oakland to a minor league ballpark, and their plan is to move to Las Vegas is appearing sketchy at best. In this presentation, Bay Area scholar Steve Treder details the downward spiral of a once proud franchise. SABR member Steve Treder is the author of the Seymour Medal-winning biography, 40 Years a Giant, The Life of Horace Stoneham. His next book, A History of the Giants and Athletics in San Francisco Bay Area, will soon be published. Steve wrote a weekly column on baseball history for the Hardball Times for more than 10 years and has presented his work many times at the Cooperstown Symposium, the 9 Spring Training Conference, and the SABR National Convention. But still, when he grows up, he intends to play center field for the San Francisco Giants. Steve Treder, welcome to Northern New England. How are you?
Well, thank you, Bruce. I really do appreciate the invitation and the opportunity. This is fun. You guys are a fun group. However, the subject matter of my presentation may not be quite so fun. So I hope I don't bring the mood down too much. So
I don't think you will. Anything that has to do with the Oakland A's and whatnot, we think it's fun. So go get them.
All right. So what I'm going to give to you is that this is the presentation. I'm going to do my screen share thing here, correct? And you can now see my screen, correct? Yeah, okay. This presentation, this is the same presentation I gave this summer at the SABR presentation. So nothing's changed since then, but the book is actually at the publisher now, so it's no longer in my hands, it's in theirs. This section,
Ruby, Marsha.
This section of the book, this is a big piece of the book. It's not the entire book, but this section of the book is pretty interesting, I think. The ownerships of the A's. So let's go ahead and do this. I'll go through these slides pretty fast, and then we can talk, which is what we're here to do. Okay, so I need to put my cursor there. There we go. Okay. Since 1980, the American League franchise known as the Athletics, until very recently the Oakland Athletics, has had 4 ownerships. First there was the Haas family, then Steve Schott, then Lou Wolf, and most recently John Fisher. The Haas ownership placed the interest of the team's fans as its top priority, above short-term profit. What they wanted to do more than anything else was win, because that's what the fans want. With each succeeding owner, the franchise's purpose has shifted further in the opposite direction. Respect for the fans has steadily declined, resulting in the utter farce we now have. Our story begins in the summer of 1980 when Charlie Finley sold the Athletics. It was something he'd been trying to do for a couple of years. In the late 1970s, the A's were such a mess that the American League President Lee MacPhail and Commissioner Bowie Kuhn were convinced that the franchise was no longer viable in Oakland. They approved of Finley's plan to sell the team to Marvin Davis, who would move the franchise to Denver. However, the city of Oakland and Alameda County, the Athletics landlords at the Oakland Coliseum, refused to allow the franchise to break its lease and wouldn't accept offers to buy it out. So Finley realized the only way he could sell the team would be to find a local buyer who would keep the team in Oakland. The local buyer who stepped forward was the family headed by Walter A. Haas. Walter A. Haas Jr. was the 64-year-old chairman of the board and of Levi Strauss & Company, the San Francisco-based maker of iconic blue jeans. He was a grandnephew of Levi Strauss himself. Haas was a native and lifelong San Franciscan. He was a Giants fan, but he loved Oakland and the greater Bay Area. Walter Haas believed that professional sports teams served an important community function as more than just a business. He considered the Oakland Athletics to be a public good that should be preserved and nurtured, and he considered doing so to be a public obligation for a company and a family as prosperous and as rooted in the Bay Area community as his. Haas purchased the Athletics truly as a family project. He placed his son, 30-year-old Walter J. Wally Haas, in the role of executive vice president. And running the operation, carrying the title of president, was the patriarch's son-in-law, 41-year-old Roy Eisenhart, an attorney, a partner in an elite San Francisco firm, as well as a visiting professor at UC Berkeley Law School. He had zero experience in professional sports. In his first press conference, Eisenhart said, quote, "It is the responsibility of a business to give back to the community. Levi Strauss is a classic example of this kind of thinking, and the Oakland A's would be run with the same philosophy. We have to create a team that's part of the community rather than a private or personal activity of the owner," unquote. The Haas family ownership worked collaboratively with the city and county, spending money in partnership to upgrade and improve the Oakland Coliseum, including the sound and lighting system, the scoreboard, the clubhouses, and the ticket and concession areas. Eisenhart also addressed the team's weak broadcasting efforts, signing a multi-year deal with radio station KSFO, who'd been the Giants' flagship for 20 years, and hiring a dream announcing team of Bay Area superstars, Bill King and Lon Simmons. For his general manager, Eisenhart chose 35-year-old Sandy Alderson, another lawyer, a colleague at Eisenhart's law firm. Alderson was first recruited to be the ball club's general counsel. He was an Ivy Leaguer as well as a United States Marine Corps officer who saw combat in Vietnam. Alderson was as young, fit, and tough as he was cerebral, and he was altogether like no GM the sport had ever seen. Like Eisenhart, he had zero experience in professional baseball. So Alderson read everything he could on the subject. He was familiar with the philosophy espoused by Earl Weaver, pitching, defense, and 3-run homers. And when Alderson read Bill James's baseball abstracts, as well as Eric Walker's The Sinister First Baseman, he fully grasped the lessons regarding the towering importance of on-base percentage in both halves of the inning. Eisenhart and Alderson were insistent that factual information, not unfounded opinion or dogmatic custom, must guide their decisions. Not only were they the first front office in baseball to openly embrace sabermetrics, they also led the early adoption of computer technology to their work. Alderson hired young Billy Bean to be his top assistant and personal protege. Bean was an oddball, recently a ball player of immense promise and poor performance, and now a junior executive with rare spirit and drive. Alderson was purposely developed Bean to be his successor. The two shared traits of athleticism, competitive intensity, and free-thinking intelligence, and neither was anything close to a normal baseball executive. This chart displays the attendance of the Oakland A's from 1980 through 1995 in terms of its rank among all teams in baseball. If the line is toward the top, it means the Athletics' attendance was among the best in baseball, and if it's toward the bottom, the A's attendance was among the worst. We see that during the Haas family ownership, Oakland attendance took a roller coaster ride. It soared high in 1981 when Billy Martin was the manager and the A's were suddenly a contender. But this was Billy Martin, so as quickly as it came together, it then fell apart, and A's attendance immediately declined. In Alderson's first few years, he was rebuilding, and attendance was poor, not terrible, but below average. But by 1988, Alderson's team was blossoming, and so was attendance at the Coliseum. In the late 80s and early 90s, the A's were an elite team, winning a division title, 3 pennants, and a World Series. This was the great Bash Brothers teams with Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire, managed by Tony La Russa, and including Ricky Henderson, Dave Stewart, and Dennis Eckersley. Their attendance was great too, among the highest in the game. Then this great team fell apart, and Alderson was unable to reverse the slide. Just as suddenly as Oakland attendance had improved, it cratered, back down among the sport's lowest. I need to move my cursor to there. There we go. In July 1995, Walter Haas was dying of cancer, and his family decided to sell the team. They would only sell to an owner who would keep the team in Oakland, and on that basis, they sold to Steve Schott and Ken Hoffman, Bay Area construction builders. The Haas family never cared about making money from the Athletics, and they spent freely. Nevertheless, the revenue growth in the baseball business meant that the market value of the enterprise was now $85 million, 7 times more than what the Haas spent to buy it. Their profit was huge. Ken Hoffman was a silent partner. The Steve Schott would run the team. Schott was a Bay Area guy, born and raised in Santa Clara, literally in the same neighborhood as me and my family, and attended Santa Clara University on a baseball scholarship. Nevertheless, Schott's approach to the A's was very different than the Haas family. They had behaved as a patron, supporting an asset for the good of the community. Schott behaved simply as a private investor. Schott strictly focused on the annual operating profit margin and imposed tight spending budgets on every department, starting with player payroll. This set up the dynamic captured in Moneyball by Michael Lewis in Moneyball. General manager Billy Beane able to spend far less than the competitors, yet fielding a contender. The key to his success was a productive farm system, as the A's presented a core of inexpensive young stars. But as the stars approached free agency, Schott was unwilling to spend the market value to retain them. The only star Beane was able to persuade Schott to keep was third baseman Eric Chavez. Meanwhile, leaving his free agents were Jason Giambi, Miguel Tejada, Johnny Damon, and Jermaine Dye, while Tim Hudson and Mark Mulder were traded for prospects before they could leave. Attendance was bad when Schott bought the franchise, but as the team on the field improved, the gate improved. It was never good, though through the heart of the Moneyball years, A's attendance was slightly below league average, but ticket revenue was increasing. We can imagine what their attendance might have become if Schott's approach had been similar to that of the Haas family, willing to spend as necessary to optimize wins, particularly with Beane's expertise guiding the decisions. The talent on hand, if retained, was capable of becoming a great dynasty. But we'll never know. Beane's wheeling and dealing was enough to keep the good team good for several years, but he was never given the payroll capacity to make them great. We don't know what the true ceiling might have been for Oakland's ball club in this period. Steve Schott's priorities were elsewhere. In 2004, he was approached by a group from his hometown of Santa Clara, inviting him to forsake Oakland and move the A's 40 miles south to Silicon Valley. Schott would happily have done so, but Commissioner Bud Selig refused to allow it. In 1990, the Athletics had formally granted Santa Clara County territorial rights to the San Francisco Giants, back when the Giants wanted to move to Santa Clara. Unless the A's could get the approval of the Giants, which they could not, the A's would not be moving to Silicon Valley. With this, Schott's enthusiasm, never deep, dried up. In early 2005, Schott and Hoffman sold the team to a partnership fronted by Lou Wolf, backed by John Fisher. In 10 years, Schott and Hoffman more than doubled their $85 million investment. Lou Wolf was recruited by Commissioner Bud Selig to become the A's new managing partner. Wolf and Selig were old friends, fraternity brothers at the University of Wisconsin. Wolf was a commercial real estate developer, and Selig believed that this expertise was just what the A's needed. The Giants had recently built Pacific Ballpark in San Francisco, and Selig believed that the A's needed to build a new park of their own to replace the Oakland Coliseum. Wolf got right to work on it. 5 months into his ownership, Wolf announced a plan to build a new ballpark in Oakland, financed mostly by the team. It would be at a site near the site of the Coliseum, the centerpiece of a mixed-use hotel, retail, restaurant development. A's fans were excited, and Bud Selig was thrilled. But less than a year later, Wolf abruptly canceled the Oakland ballpark plan. Instead, the A's were going to move to Fremont, a small city 25 miles south of Oakland. Fremont is closer to San Jose than it is to Oakland, but in Alameda County, so it wouldn't infringe on the giant Santa Clara County territorial rights. This new A's ballpark would be built in partnership with Cisco Systems, a giant Silicon Valley company. It would have cool, high-tech features and would be called Cisco Field. Bud Selig was still thrilled. He said, quote, "They did what they had to do. They have no alternatives," unquote. Ignoring the alternative of building a new ballpark in Oakland, which everyone thought was underway, A's fans who lived south of Oakland and in Santa Clara County, a significant portion, were also delighted. But the rest of the team's fan base wasn't happy about this, and the city of Oakland was furious, feeling deceived and betrayed. The time frame for the new stadium's opening was 3 to 5 years, but they never got that far. Just 2 years after the Fremont plan was launched, Wolf canceled this one too. He blamed opposition from Fremont citizens groups, feared traffic problems and harm to residential property values. Such opposition, to a project of this scale should not have come as a surprise, yet Wolf was perplexed by it, and it defeated him. Lou Wolf had been handpicked by Bud Selig to take over the Athletics precisely because of his successful experience completing complex commercial real estate projects. But here he whiffed. Wolf pulled the plug on the Fremont deal after already having stiffed the city of Oakland and demoralized the majority of his fans. He'd taken on a healthy franchise facing challenges, and within a few years worsened all of the problems. Soon after abandoning Fremont, Wolf began discussions with the city of San Jose about putting the Cisco Field project there. This was a Hail Mary pass, and it soon too would fail. The Giants objected, and Selig couldn't support it. Instead, Selig announced the creation of a blue ribbon committee to investigate the territorial rights question and present a recommendation. Nothing ever came of it. The city of San Jose sued Major League Baseball and lost because of MLB's antitrust exemption. All the while, the fans of the Oakland Athletics and the city of Oakland received ever more disrespect and antagonism. Like Steve Schott before him, Wolf never allowed the A's to spend competitively on payroll. Billy Beane ran out of miracles, the team fell out of contention, and attendance circled the drain. After a few years, Beane pulled another rabbit out of his hat as the A's emerged with a bargain payroll winner. Managed by Bob Melvin and led by star third baseman Josh Donaldson, acquired as a prospect in one of Beane's trades, this A's team won 2 division titles and a wild card, and attendance at the Coliseum climbed out of the basement. But just as Donaldson was about to deliver his MVP season, the A's dumped him for prospects to cut costs. Wolf burned his last shred of credibility. The team was yet again busted up, plummeting to last place and dragging attendance back down to rock bottom. In 2016, Lou Wolf cashed out his shares to John Fisher and stepped aside. In 12 years, Wolf had run a successful franchise straight into the ground. They were now uncompetitive on the field and among the least attended teams in baseball, and Wolf had made zero progress on his first objective of building a new ballpark. For this, Wolf's reward was $73 million, 4 times what he'd spent to buy in. John Fisher, 55 years old in 2016, was heir to the fortune amassed by his parents, the founders of the clothing retail chain The Gap. Fisher hired Dave Cavall to be president of the Athletics and run the operation. Cavall was a lifelong baseball fan who in 2003 had founded the Golden Baseball League, an independent minor league. Since 2010, Cavall had been president of the San Jose Earthquakes, the Major League Soccer team owned by Wolf and Fisher, and they had successfully built the Earthquakes' new soccer stadium in San Jose. In 2017, the Athletics announced a plan to build a new ballpark in Oakland near Peralta Community College. However, the college and local community groups opposed it, and 3 months later, the project was canceled. In 2018, the A's proposed to purchase the Coliseum from the city and county in order to build a baseball-only stadium there. They never succeeded at that either. The A's also worked with the city to develop a new ballpark at Howard Terminal near Jack London Square. This proposal moved a long way towards success, surpassing the hurdle of the Environmental Impact Report and winning the support of the AFL-CIO, the port, the city, the county, and the state. However, before ground could be broken, COVID struck. During the resulting delay, the A's enthusiasm for the project disappeared. Through 2021 and 22, the municipal entities were eager to get the ballpark project started, but the A's kept moving goalposts. In September 2022, the team missed their deadline to sign off on the plan, In April 2023, the A's announced their intention to relocate to Las Vegas, and in November 2023, Major League Baseball owners unanimously approved the move to Las Vegas, despite the fact that there was no approved construction plan in Vegas, no agreement on financing, and no plan for where the team would play in the interim. Meanwhile, in 2015, 53-year-old Billy Beane had resigned as the Athletics general manager to become executive vice president of baseball operations. Replacing him as GM was 39-year-old David Forst, a former minor league player who'd spent his entire post-playing career working in the A's organization. Despite everything, Forst achieved another Beane-like micro payroll miracle, putting together a team that won back-to-back wild cards and a division title in the COVID season. This team was led by young stars, Marcus Semien, Matt Olson, and Matt Chapman. Athletics attendance again began to modestly grow. However, in 2020, the A's let Semien leave as a free agent. He subsequently has been a three-time All-Star. In 2021, the A's traded Olson for prospects. Olson subsequently led the major leagues in home runs and RBIs. In 2022, the A's traded Chapman for prospects, and he has subsequently won 2 Gold Gloves, and in 2024 was second in the National League in wins above replacement. The Oakland Athletics, stripped of talent yet again, fell to last place yet again. The team's fans abused over and over, spent the final few seasons in Oakland bitterly protesting their team's ownership. Signs and chants of sell the team were common in the sparse crowds. In the team's final game in Oakland in September 2024, the recurring chant was, please pardon the vulgarity here, fuck John Fisher. Fisher was not there to hear it, however, as he never attended any of his team's games in Oakland during their final several seasons in Oakland. So here's the full picture, including all 4 ownerships. Note that while the team's attendance has gone down, down, and down, the market value of the franchise, indicated by the MV in red, has gone up, up, and up, enriching its tiny group of private equity investors while disregarding the interests of every other stakeholder. Thank you. That's all I got. So we can do Q&A.
So why is it, I'm going to pop you back so that we can see you a little better. There we go. So it just seems to me like Oakland had so many close calls with getting that new ballpark. And in some cases, ownership just kind of ripped the carpet out from under them. Why is it that this happens so much in Oakland? Do you have any insight as to that?
Well, first of all, your characterization is correct. In none of these cases, either with Lou Wolf originally or with Fisher in the more recent years, the city did everything that they were expected or required to do. The city didn't drop the ball. It was Oakland, or it was the A's rather, who killed the plan unilaterally both times. Oakland is the Charlie Brown of cities, right? Oakland never succeeds. This is the history of the poor city. You know, the A's aren't the only franchise to leave. The Warriors left. The Raiders have left twice. So I think, you know, the dynamics was likely this, that neither Wolf nor Fisher was really motivated, really had their heart in staying in Oakland. They knew they were supposed to. They knew this is what they had agreed to do, but they didn't really believe it in themselves, because I think a lot of, you know, their friends, you know, in the Billionaire Boys Club, you know, the kind of people that these kind of guys hang out with, would kind of kid him, you know, Oakland, yeah, you guys in Oakland, you know, you need to be somewhere cool. You know, someplace that's got some juice, someplace that's, you know, that's exciting. And Oakland, you know, is not that. Whether it's its fault or not, who knows? But Oakland does not have that kind of charisma. And so, yeah, Fisher's, you know, desire to move to Las Vegas, I believe, is sincere, but his competence at actually successfully getting a ballpark built is not in evidence. And until that ballpark actually starts construction, I am it's, to me, it's just as likely that the A's don't end up in Las Vegas right now as it is that they do. It's a 50-50 proposition, I think.
See, that was going to be my next question. Has anything really been done on that site? Last I saw any pictures of it through the AP or anything like that, nothing had been done. Steve's shaking his head no.
They
Go ahead.
did. They had a big photo op in June, I think it was, a
Yeah.
big photo op of some heavy machinery moving some stuff. That was just site clearance activity. None of that had anything to do with actually building a new structure, because there is no funding to build a new structure. There is no plan, no blueprint, no plans filed with the city of Las Vegas, and all the architectural improvements. None of that has happened. None of it. So they're still looking for investors, is what they're doing. That the whole point of that thing in June was to be a photo op so that they could get more investors to buy in. I think the thing is foundering. I don't think it's going anywhere. I could be wrong, but if it was not foundering, they would actually be, breaking ground and starting to build the building, and none of that has happened.
You have a question tonight for our presenter, Steve Treder. Go down to the bottom of the screen and hit the react button. You'll see another button marked raised hand. Once you do that, raise your hand and we'll get you in line to ask questions of Steve Treder tonight. So, you know what? Francis Kinlaw is wanting to ask a question. I'm just going to step aside. Francis, what's going on?
Well, this may be a logical question. It's probably one that you will need to just give your opinion on. But if they don't wind up in Las Vegas, would you have any idea how this scenario is going to end?
Well, that's a fascinating question, isn't it? Of course, I don't know. Nobody does, but I'll be happy to throw out my speculative guesses as to what would happen. There's the usual suspects of other locations that baseball always, has dangling out there. It's the Portland, Sacramento, obviously, I don't know, Louisville, there's probably 3 or 4 others. They always have sort of cooking AAA
Salt
kind of
Lake
cities.
City, Montreal.
Salt Lake City. Yeah. Montreal. Yeah. So there's a bunch of potential suitors or whatever that could be brought into play. But, to me, the elephant in the room is, they could move back to Oakland. the new ballpark could still be built at Harold Terminal, and that could be the solution as well. Or here's another one that I think is as possible as any of these others. All of these are possible. That some billionaire in Silicon Valley could buy out John Fisher and buy and give the Giants the check the Giants have been waiting for somebody to buy off their Santa Clara County territorial rights. It's just an economic value is all it is. And if somebody writes the Giants a big enough check, the Giants will take it and moves the team to San Jose and moves the team to Silicon Valley. I mean, that's the biggest city without a Major League Baseball franchise in the country. So, that could be the place they end up.
That was Bruce Allardyce's. Go ahead. So I'm sorry, I stepped on you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to follow up with if any of those other cities are the ultimate choice, Portland, etc., wouldn't this go on for several more years until there's development in those cities suitable for a major league team?
It's the minimal amount of time it would take to move anywhere is the time it's going to take to get a new ballpark built, because there's no major league quality facility in any of those cities, right? The place that the A's played in Sacramento this season is the kind of stadiums that there are. They're AAA stadiums. They're not major league stadiums. So yes, the minimum amount of time is that length of time. So it's going to be at least 2 to 4 years minimum. That the A's are stuck in this limbo in Sacramento, or, maybe they'll end up in some other similar kind of a, ridiculous 12,000 seat or even 20,000 seat minor league ballpark. It's appalling to me that the fellow owners have not allowed this to happen. They voted unanimously in favor of the Vegas plan. Who said that was a good idea? I don't know what their strategic end game is with this. I don't know what they hope is the outcome, because if this Las Vegas is the hoped for outcome, it's not progressing very well. They're not making progress on that.
Thank you.
There was a article that I read this afternoon on The Athletic that talks about the player survey that's done every year. And it was headlined, "Nobody wants to play for the A's." How are they going? How are you going to field a Major League Baseball team if nobody wants to play there?
It is unprecedented in Major League Baseball history. I guess there's been kind of an analogous situation in the NHL with the Phoenix Coyotes, were just such a lame, poorly run, the albatross of a franchise that might approach this, but not in modern Major League history has there ever been anything like this. You'd have to go back to the 1890s, the Cleveland Spiders, that kind of a situation to come up with something that's a precedent for this in Major League Baseball. Nobody knows how this will play out. Yeah, they can't sign any free agents. Any free agent would have to say, "You're going to have to pay me double my market value to even put you on the list for consideration." So they're going to struggle. They've done a pretty good job of scrambling around with bargain bin replacement players, but that's all they can do. You can't build a winner that way. And Billy Beane was the best at this in history. He couldn't build a sustained winner doing that. You can't. You run out of runway, right? Once your young bargains grow up and leave, they're gone, and you're back to where you started. So, competitively and economically, I have no idea how they envision this to be successful, because it looks like it's going to be an embarrassment for the league for at least the next 2 to 5 years.
I was looking for the article on The Athletic. I'm having trouble finding it. I'll take another look while our man Gary Mintz, the president of the New York Giants Preservation Society, is here, and he would like to ask a question. Gary, unmute and let it rip, my guy. How you doing?
I'm very well, Bruce. Thanks for asking.
Glad you're
Steve,
here.
great presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Just so everybody knows, I was in Las Vegas about 3 weeks ago. There's nothing going on there. They have a beautiful football stadium, and basically diagonal is a nice hockey rink. There is nothing going on baseball-wise in Las Vegas. Steve, I got 2 questions for you. Was the Schott family jealous of the Giants? They both have crappy stadiums, but, in 2000, Oracle Park was built, and it's, of course, one of the jewels in baseball. Was the Schott family, jealous of that, wanting something similar? And what exactly are the A's fans doing now? Do they root for the Giants? Do they have no interest in baseball? What can you tell us?
I'll don't let me forget the second one, because it's a very interesting question. But let me start with the first one. You said the Schott family. I think you mean the Haas family.
Whoever owned the team
Right.
in 2000.
The Haas family.
I'm sorry.
First of all, the Haas. Wally Haas was a Giants fan originally, a San Franciscan for generations, and they were deep Giants fans. And the Haas family and Roy Eisenhart really articulated it very well. They didn't feel that they were in competition with the Giants at all. They felt that the best thing for both franchises was for them both to be there and both being successful simultaneously. That's what would explode the fan interest in the market. And, in 1989 and 1990, it was sure looking like that was true, as both teams were skyrocketing in attendance and successful. Once the Giants built Oracle Park, which is now called whatever it's now called. The name's changed so many times. Pac Bell, the new ballpark, which was a jewel, right? They went from the worst ballpark to the best overnight, and it's hugely successful. Then by this time, Schott owns the A's. I don't understand why his first priority wasn't. He was a construction guy. He's a commercial real estate guy. Let's one up them. Let's show them how we can really build a great ballpark. And there's plenty of locations in Oakland that would have been beautiful. Jack London Square, Harrow Terminal, beautiful bayfront locations. It would have been a great ballpark. Schott is, to me, is an empty page. He's not a bad guy, but he had no vision, no ambition. He didn't have any interest in the A's, other than I'll make my money annually and leave with a profit. Wolf whiffed on the whole thing. I have no idea why they couldn't succeed there, because it was obvious that they could have. The Giants had built the model. This is what you do. This is how it works. You can make a fortune and be a hero in the community. Everybody wins, and they didn't do it. And so here we are. Your second question: what do the A's fans do now? Let me take a drink of water. A's fans, certainly since the Moneyball era, since the last 25 years, A's fans have been not the biggest group in baseball, obviously, but one of the best fan bases there are. They're knowledgeable, they're loyal, they're intelligent, they're educated. This is a really cool fan base. And one of the things they are definitely not is Giants fans. They don't live in San Francisco. They don't want to be Giants fans. The Giants to them represent everything that they're not, right? That they are not that herd, that they're not the Silicon Valley, airheads. They're different. They're a better stock than that. That's the A's fans. And they're screwed. They got the Ballers. There's like an independent league team that's going to play. I mean, and then there's minor league baseball. There's the ways they can exhibit their fandom, but they've been robbed of their unifying principle for the last half a century or more.
Terrible.
It's a terrible, set aside the economics of it. It's just a cultural insult. It's a terrible thing to do to a population of several 100,000 people. This is real people, and I don't know what they're going to do. Most of them are very bitter. Most of them don't want to have anything to do with Major League Baseball.
Lastly, Steve, what is the title of the book? The upcoming book.
My title,
Yeah.
The publisher may yet change this, so stay tuned. But my title is Bayball, Bayball, baseball, because it's kind of alliterative. But my book covers all this stuff, certainly the A's, but also simultaneously covers the Giants at the same period, and both teams interacting, and competing with each other is the theme of the book. And then within that, the broader background of the whole Bay Area, and particularly Silicon Valley, and how that has changed the whole economic basis of the location of the.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
So the Ballers won the Pioneer League. They, I'm looking right now at their attendance, and for the Pioneer League, it's actually pretty good. Looks to me they're averaging a couple of thousand a game for the most part, which that's not bad for that league. And considering that it's real raw, that Band-Aid was ripped off and they lost their team. So I gotta say that this Ballers franchise looks like it's not in bad shape so far. And I know that the Coliseum has been retrofitted for soccer, right?
It had been. I think it's ticketed for demolition.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought that there was a soccer team going there. I guess not. I
don't think so.
I did find the article too. I'll get to that in a minute, because buckle up. Joe Ross is here and he would like to ask a question. Joe Ross, how you doing, man?
I'm fine, thank you.
Go get 'em.
Steve, thank you very much. This was extremely good and very enlightening, because I always thought that the Red Sox were the league's training camp.
Here we go. Here
Hey, truth
we
is
go.
truth. You got to live with it. That's just the way it is. The
You know,
Red
Bill
Sox-
Nolan's here. He's going to have words with you, man.
That's okay. I like Bill. He's a nice guy. The problem I see with the Red Sox, of course, is that they train everybody until they're Mookie Betts and then they trade them. That's the sort of thing I'm used to with the Red Sox, and I thought they were the ones for the entire of Major League Baseball. However, Let me change the subject just a little bit to answer your question, Bruce. You talked about how do they manage the staff. First of all, young kids today compare the amount of money you really want to make with the idea of being able to say to your friends, I'm a major league baseball player on a major league roster with a major league contract. That's worth more than the amount of money necessarily. It's also complicated by the fact that if you're drafted by Oakland, they're the team that can sign you. No one else can. Therefore, they're going to staff the team. Are they going to staff the team with champions? I think we already know the answer to that. But the fact is they're going to put 35 or 40 people on the roster because that's what they need to do. And there are always going to be kids who want to be able to say, I'm a major league baseball player. I'd love to be able to say that. Wouldn't help any team that I know, but it would be nice to say.
My question is, so are you sure that the idea of calling your buddy and saying, I'm a major league ball player is more important than the money?
There's a certain point at which, yes, at a certain point. Let's take you. Okay, you're a good example. If I said to you, hey, Bruce, I'm going to pay you $10 million to play ball on my club, what's your answer?
Why not?
Thank you very much.
I'm not going to play very well.
That isn't the question. I didn't ask you if you could play. I didn't ask you if you were any good. I just asked you if you'd like $10 million to play on the club. And that's a pretty easy answer.
I'm no good at that.
If you had two other people standing in the wings bidding, and one says, oh, I'll take McClure, give him 12 million. And the other guy says, no, wait a minute. Hey, Bruce, sign with me instead. I'll give you 15 million. That's a different argument. But if I'm the only club that has rights to Bruce McClure, and I say, I'll give you 10 million to play for my club, I know your answer. It's as simple as that.
Guess I can't argue it much. Although somebody gets drafted by Oakland these days, I'm wondering if they're actually going to sign. They have the idea to go back to college.
First rounder, they may opt out, especially if they're not seniors. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, you've got the same problem. If somebody is getting X dollars to play, are they going to sit out or are they going to play?
The A's can compete for the free agent draft, talent equally. The free agent draft or, the amateur draft is set up that way, right? No team has an advantage. Everybody gets exclusive rights to their draftees, but that's only part of building a competitive team. You have to actually develop these players and, fill the roster up with the rest of it. And, the A's are at an extreme disadvantage.
Who said anything about competitive?
There's your point. They're not going to be a serious contender. They may not necessarily finish in last place. They weren't the worst team in the league this year, but that's the best they can hope for. Mediocrity it would be a great achievement. That's not good for the competitive image of the league, trying to put a serious sport together here. We've got one franchise is just tanking it. It's not a good look.
Again, that's a different question though. They can definitely put a team on the field simply because there are certain players for whom they will have the rights. No one else can take them. Therefore, they'll be able to put 9 players on the field, period.
So I actually found the article from The Athletic, and the final question, one of the last questions of the poll was, which organizations have good reputations among players and bad reputations? So oh boy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 franchises got exactly 0 votes for good reputations among ball players. They are Washington, Detroit, Seattle, Anaheim, sorry, Karen, Pittsburgh, Miami, Colorado, Chicago, AL and the I'm saying Oakland Athletics, but here's the thing. When compared with the opinion of a ball player saying that that team is a bad team and not someone I would play with, Oakland far and away had more votes, with 39 votes of this club is a bad club that I don't want to be a part of. And that's a shame, because there were years that club was well sought. And we've got a lot of questions, so I'm just going to keep going here. Alec Baldwin. Oh my God. Alec Bowden, help me. Save me from this. Unmute and ask your question. If you can turn your camera on, that'd be great too.
Yeah.
There he is. How you doing, Alec?
I just want to thank you for this intriguing presentation. But one thing, there, it moved on the screen. Sorry about that. One question that kind of came up as someone who grew up in minor league markets, is now living in an indie ball market, is where do the Las Vegas Aviators play in all of this whole fiasco? Especially, ironically, they're the A's AAA franchise.
Well, there's a AAA caliber minor league ballpark in Las Vegas. I've never heard of the discussion of it, probably because of the Pacific Coast League franchises there. But why don't the A's just play there? They're going to play in some rinky-dink minor league ballpark anyway. I think I know one of the real reasons is that Las Vegas in the summertime is a really, really hot venue. Sacramento's not pleasant, but my God, Las Vegas. So it makes as much sense as anything else.
Right.
They got no better ideas.
Oakland is actually going to play 3 games in Vegas this year at the Aviators ballpark.
So
and they have not come out with timeframes for schedules, but what do you want to bet they play afternoon games? That'd just be a kick in the pants. Hey, Alec, could you turn on your mic again? I want to ask you a question.
Yeah,
you said you grew up in minor league areas. Where did you grow up?
So I'm from Auburn, Maine. So Portland Sea Dogs through and through. And then I went to college out in just outside of Columbus, so the Clippers.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Did you have a preference between one or the other?
I'm always going to be Portland Sea Dogs, and the main fan base, and now seeing it across other sports with like the Hearts of Pine and the Maine Mariners as well. So some of the best games I've been to.
I worked in the Eastern League for an awfully long time with the Older Britain Rockcats, so going to Portland was always a lot of fun. I mean, we were up there as a chapter a couple of years ago for Banana Ball, which was great. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. I love that ballpark. I got to get up there more often. I think my wife will say I keep looking across the border, so to speak, saying I got to get up there. But time, that's all I need. Time. Oh,
I understand that.
Right? I appreciate you, Alex. Alec, thank you very much. I'm going to go to Alex Stace next, and then I'm going to go to Francis, because Alec hasn't asked a question this evening. Alec, turn your camera on. We want to see you, my man.
I'm just driving home, so I will pass on that for the moment. But
so please don't crash.
I will be known as Other Alec for this purpose.
Perfect.
I would point out to Maine Alec that my mother's partner designed that ballpark in Portland, so I'm proud of it as well. But I guess I would just observe that with this talk about the franchise, it's more of an observation, but the franchise, that are good to players or whatever, I think the Mariners are going to score higher, the Naylor thing, and having a good vibe this year, that, they were kind of an outpost, and I think they're going to be higher in the rankings going forward. And then relatedly to Bruce's point about the survey at all, you guys might have noticed that the NFL was telling the players rather that they cannot grade the stadium facilities anymore because it's against the collective bargaining agreement. So I will predict that MLB will also try to Bigfoot these kind of player surveys from the Athletic or other things about various teams. That
wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Even though we all think it's valuable, they're going to say that it's anti-competitive or some foolishness. Thanks.
Wouldn't it be anti-competitive for a Major League Baseball team to be run this way and then have to wind up in a minor league ballpark?
Well, you guys were talking about teams that don't try, and obviously Oakland is a paragon of that. But there was an article a few weeks ago about the MLB is actually popular precisely because we have an oligarchy, and the Yankees and Dodgers and Mets and the Red Sox are at the top, and that actually having the super teams is valuable. And in the NBA, where they try to have everyone have a shot, or the NFL, actually it's less helpful to fan interest overall.
Bill Nolan in the chat, Nashville always comes up in discussions as to new locations. That is true. There's some great comments in the chat that I want to go to, but I want Francis to get his question in. Francis, go, my man.
Well, hopefully it'll be quick. It's just an observation. Going back to the early 2000s when Montreal's club was really being run by major league owners before the move to Washington. Now we have a situation where the ownership is so bad that you wonder if that could be worse.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Let's see here. Couple of things in the chat I want to go to. I want to get Richard, are you there? Could you unmute and turn where's Richard Koichi? I probably butchered his last name. He may not be able to come on. That's okay. Richard in the chat, New Orleans thought Finley was really interested in moving the team to play in the Superdome in the 70s, but in fact, he was just using the threat of moving to get a better lease on the Oakland Coliseum. I've heard that before, but I've also had folks tell me that that was actually a myth. I don't know if you can speak to that, Steve, but I've been told it's a myth.
The New Orleans Superdome details I can't offer any knowledge of, but I will say that sounds exactly like the sort of thing Finley would do. But it's not unique to Finley. That's the sort of thing every major league owner does. That's their playbook, right? Is they're constant. They don't want all the markets to be saturated. They want there to always be this little mushrooming group of quad A markets that they can use as leverage to get a better deal where they are. That's the oldest play in the book.
The New Orleans Zephyrs played there for a while. It was the only minor league team to play in a dome. Dan Schoenholtz, are you here, Dan? You still here? Can you turn your mic or camera on? We got a lot of people here tonight. It's hard to find people. He is not responding either, and that is okay. Dan Schoenholtz in the chat. The A's wanted to be in Sacramento so they didn't have to forfeit TV dollars they'd already secured from the local sports cable network. They would have lost it if they'd moved to Vegas immediately. I've heard that's true.
That makes sense. It's, you know how else they could have not forfeited their local TV money?
Hang on. Wait a minute. Hang on.
Oakland.
I was about to say, let me guess. Stayed in Oakland. There you go.
It's sort of like, oh yeah, that's a real shrewd move to Sacramento to keep your TV money. Yeah, great.
To a AAA minor league ballpark. Yeah, Bruce Allardyce, can you unmute?
There we go.
You made a good point in the chat. Could you make that point?
Well, I was just taking a look at the metropolitan population.
Oh, drat. And then he freezes. If I didn't have bad luck tonight, I'd have no luck at all. Bruce, if you can hear me, you're frozen. I apologize.
Vegas and Sacramento, and they are basically the same, about 2.4 stadium. I would think that Sacramento.
All right, so he's freezing up, I hate to say. So I'm going to.
Is he saying what he wrote in the chat?
Yeah, I was trying to get him to discuss it on camera. Unfortunately, he's freezing up. So Sacramento and Vegas have about the same metro populations. I understand that it's tough to build anything in California and that Vegas has more pizzazz, but Sacramento would seem to be a viable option if they had a new stadium. But didn't Sacramento say they don't want them there permanently?
Sacramento has reacted to the kind of the insult of the A's playing there, but not calling themselves the Sacramento A's or using Sacramento in any of their promotional information.
Yeah, that's insulting.
Sacramento thought that was pretty petty. And so there's been some barbs about that, but I've never heard, Sacramento doesn't speak as a one. There's lots of different business interests that this would be, but I don't think it's impossible at all to imagine that they could build a publicly private public partnership kind of a project in Sacramento. For years I've said, for decades I've said, the best place for the A's franchise to be is Oakland. But if they have, for some reason, they just can't stop themselves and have to move, the second best place for that franchise to be is Sacramento, because you're able to keep half of your fan base, or at least a quarter of it anyway, that lives in Contra Costa, Vacaville, Davis, getting closer to the Sacramento region already anyway. So there's a lot of people right there. Sacramento is, thriving and growing. California is thriving and growing. The economic outlook in Sacramento is very good. So among the Quad A locations, I would definitely say Sacramento should be, top of the list.
Alex stays in the chat, says he would threaten to move to your backyard if he could. And I'll tell you what, if he threatened to move to my backyard, I'd have him pay cash for the lease because I'm not taking a check from this guy. Bob Webster, I agree that nobody wants to go there, but they do have a great young base with Shea Langeliers, Nick Kurtz, Jacob Wilson, Tyler Soderstrom, and Lawrence Butler. So, that's a good point too.
It's always, you can't blame the players or the poor manager or even the general manager. They're doing the best they can with what they got. And the A's historically have, surprised us over and over again by overachieving expectations and putting a competitive team on. But the issue is you can't sustain it. It's impossible to keep that core for more than a few years before the guys, who are pursuing their own careers and they reach free agency and they say, well, if you're not going to sign me, bud, I'm gone. And the A's then, in order to preempt that, have traded the guys away for prospects before they lose them. But that's the dynamic. You can succeed competitively for a few years with the young bargains, but you can't build a long-term winner.
It's true.
If it had been possible, by golly, the A's would have done it by now. They haven't.
Discussing this franchise and the foibles of it from 1980 on is always an interesting discussion because you look at it from, above, like you're flying above it, and you say, but how does this happen? What? Wait, that happened too? It's a fascinating story of success in spite of so many things and people working against it.
Somebody should write a book about it. It's such an interesting story.
Somebody ought to write a book about it.
I'll say this.
Okay.
We often criticize fiction, right? Movies, novels, stories that we're entertained by, as being unbelievable, as being preposterous. That could never happen. And then you look at the A's and you think, well, nobody would have predicted this.
Right?
Nobody, could have foreseen the A's story certainly over the last 15 or 20 years. It's just bizarre. And we have no idea how it's going to turn out. We don't know if we're in the last chapter or in the beginning of part 3.
Right?
It's a complete mystery where this thing's going to go.
And frankly, I don't think anybody in the franchise knows what's going to happen. Right up to the owner.
The one question I do not know the answer to is, what is John Fisher thinking? Is he some sort of, multi-dimensional chess genius who's got an incredible thing worked out? He's just, this is just a weird twist along the way. Or is he just an absolute fool? Any one of those two possibilities is possible, as well as anywhere in the middle. I have no idea. He is an absolutely opaque individual.
So when is your book coming out?
Well, since it's being published by University of Nebraska Press, based on my last book, I'll tell you, I have no idea. They're
all right.
There's time schedules are more like glacial than what we normal humans go by. I don't know. Sometime in 2026, I guess, would be my guess at this point. But it's at least a year out probably because that's the way they do it. But at some point I'll know and I'll be able to tell you.
And I guess we're going to have you back so you can discuss what's in between the
That
cover.
works for me. I love this group. You guys are just really fun and interesting and knowledgeable and passionate. And that's what baseball discussion's all about.
Steve, I will tell you that the check's in the mail. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
As always.
All right. So we are back Wednesday night because I'm nuts and we do a couple of meetings a week sometimes. So we're back Wednesday, November 19th with a triumvirate for another presentation. So we're going to have Andy Tutkin in. We're going to have my friend Evan Katz in. And I wonder who the third person could be involved in this. Let me think for a minute. Hold on. Oh, Lord, it's me. We're going to host a discussion Wednesday night of baseball's entry level stories from the Pecos League. You're not going to want to miss this because Evan and Andy have been involved in the Pecos League for a couple of years now, and they've got some great stories, and it's a lot of fun. It's going to be a very interesting discussion. The sign-up link is available at the chapter meeting booklet and in the SABR events calendar. And finally, if you're a baseball fan watching on YouTube and you like what you see, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to be alerted to each of our weekly uploads. And if you are not yet a member, you need to join the Society for American Baseball Research, the premier baseball community, offering an amazing baseball buffet of options to explore your fandom. SABR boasts more than 35 different research committees, over 80 regional chapters, and innumerable opportunities to connect with baseball minds across the world, just like Steve Treder. For more information, go to SABR.org today. Steve Treder, you are fantastic. Thank you for doing this for us.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Let's get everybody out of here. We're going to see you Wednesday night. Have a good night, everyone.